Monmouth University, giving Republicans an edge. 47% say that they are either voting or leaning toward voting for a Republican in the midterm elections, with only 44% saying that they will do the same for Democrats. The top issue for voters, inflation and crime, with abortion falling behind issues such as immigration. Joining me right now is pollster and former senior counsel to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway is here. We also want to welcome her to the Fox family. She is now a Fox News contributor. Kellyanne, congrats.
Thank you, Maria. Such a pleasure to be with you, as always.
What are your thoughts going into the midterms in terms of what's most important? I mean, we've been talking about this wide-open border all morning long. 5 buses showed up in New York City this morning at Port Authority. That continues, as well as the fentanyl poisoning.
Yes. Maria, this is the most straightforward, uncomplicated issue set I've seen in the 34 years of doing this as a pollster. It's rising costs and rising crime. And the reason that the Democrats want to tell the voters what's important to them, what they should think and how they should perform in 5 weeks, is because they've only got January 6th, climate change, abortion. Those issues are important to some voters, but they're way down the list in terms of intense priorities. Maria, everybody's polls say the same thing. The Fox News polls, Reuters, our polls, NBC, New York Times, and the New Monmouth poll, they all say the same thing, that going into this economy, inflation and economic concerns and rising crime top the list. I also think a big sleeper issue that favors Republicans is this continuing parents' rights movement, because the kids still have lost learning. You still see all this ridiculous woke curriculum seeping in where we should be worried about making up for lost time. And you have an entire Democratic Party against, may I say, racial equity when it comes to school choice, charter schools, educational freedom, opportunity scholarships. An entire Democratic Party, beginning with the president and the vice president, who are standing in the schoolhouse door, preventing kids of color and kids of all backgrounds from exiting these failing schools and accessing an education that's quality, affordable, worthy of their humanity and dignity. It's uncomplicated. Maria, when you look at the Monmouth poll crosstabs, it's even worse news for Joe Biden and the Democrats. Only 21% of independents approve of the job he's doing on inflation and the economy. They're the largest cohort in the poll politically. 43% of the sample in the Monmouth poll are independents. Those are the folks who don't like career politicians like Joe Biden. They're looking at both parties. And I think Kevin McCarthy's Commitment to America is a very important document because it's an affirmative, actionable, doable, positive, accessible set of principles, 500 words, an economy that is strong, a nation that is safe, a government that is accountable, and a future that is free. That should be non-controversial and nonpartisan.
Yeah, I mean, what does this mean for the midterm elections, do you think? I mean, I was astounded at Kamala Harris and her comments over the weekend that she's going to dole out hurricane relief aid based on equity, based on race. I know the Biden administration is still trying to explain this away for what she said, and they're talking about a national strategy focused on diversity and equity policies. Both the Treasury Secretary and the Vice President are championing it. They said it again yesterday. Here they are yesterday. Watch this.
We know that we need to do all we can to build a fairer economy, and that's why we have put racial equity at the forefront of our agenda at Treasury and across the Biden administration.
So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do. I
mean, that's not as bad as what she said on Sunday, which I ran on Sunday Morning Futures, which is basically she's going to dole out aid, the hurricane aid. Let me just be clear. Hurricane Ian did not discriminate. Hurricane Ian caused deaths. Up to 80 people are dead in Florida right now. And yet she's talking about discriminating who gets aid based on equity.
But the female director of FEMA, administrator of FEMA, corrected her, and then the female black press secretary also corrected her on this idea of doling out according to racial equity. Look, the other problem here is the usual hypocrisy for the Democrats. There's never an apology. There's never agency or accountability for their lies. The border surge was not seasonal. The inflation was not transitory, Janet Yellen. And they don't really base their policies on racial equity. Let's review. I just talked about school choice and charters. But also, where's the equity, racial or otherwise, in a $420 billion executive order, Maria, Maria, that makes the welders, carpenters, hairdressers, pipe fitters, and plumbers pay for the lawyers, doctors, and MBA holders and their student loans. Where is the equity when, in the administration where I worked, pre-COVID in 2019, real median household income had risen to its highest level and poverty was at its lowest level? We just saw the reports that under Biden-Harris, poverty increased for the second year in a row, and we don't really have a measurable difference in the incomes. When you are spending trillions of dollars in government money, it's a tax on people. It's a tax on the lowest income, and things are becoming increasingly unaffordable. Now, on the fentanyl, I want to talk about this because where I worked, we broke the back of the drug crisis. We had the first overdose deaths decline in 30 years. Now you have rainbow fentanyl that's masquerading as everyday candy. And you know what I see in the data, Maria, that's I don't hear many people talk about, easy to miss? Big difference in voters right now between their views on immigration and their views on border security. Border security captures more suburban women, more independents. They're focused on the fact that the drugs are pouring over.
Oh, yeah.
Fentanyl is the #1 killer of 18 to 45-year-olds, and they know why that's happening. Folks, it's not seasonal, and it's not coincidence. It's causation.
Yeah.
You have a border czar that doesn't go to the border. They do nothing for the drug crisis. This is what happens, and it's very dangerous, and a tiny little few grams can wipe out entire communities.
Dagan.
Kellyanne, it's Dagan McDowell. One of the things that certainly hurts Biden's approval rating or raises his disapproval rating, and this has been going on since he took office, and it's kind of a carryover from President Obama and even Hillary Clinton, is talking to the American people as if they're stupid. That maybe he never called Americans a basket of deplorables, but we're all treated like rubes and hayseeds and hicks and rednecks when we know that when you reduce oil supplies, prices go up and it makes us weaker on the world stage. And part of that, and also sitting back and watching these policies and witnessing our standard of living in decline because inflation is high, running as fast as it's been in 40 years. So part of it is not just the policy, it's the positioning and the messaging and the way that they treat the American people.
It definitely is the approach. And Dagan, I believe that the Democrats right now are telling America, believe what we say, not what you see. And I have faith in America believes what they see. Rising crime on their screens daily, the randomness, the capriciousness, and then the lack of punishment for the criminals. The victimization, the victims really don't get relief, and the communities are suffering.
Yeah.
I know people see rising prices. And by the way, it's not just gas and groceries anymore, Dagan and Maria. It's utilities, it's insurance, it's the rent. The fastest growing new group of new homeless are single moms who have a job. They are supporting themselves and their families, but they get behind in the rent, and that's it.
That's
so
incredible.
You're right. And when you have a president of the United States standing in Philadelphia, castigating and denigrating tens of millions of Americans, it tells you all you need to know. We never deeply examine that which we deeply disdain. They don't like you. They don't want you to be in school with their kids. They don't trust you to make your own financial decisions.
Yeah. Real quick, Joe Contra, jump in.
Kellyanne, if Joe Biden doesn't run, logic would say then the vice president would become the nominee of the Democratic Party. The problem is, as we just discussed with Kamala Harris, I see this as a package deal. In other words, if Biden doesn't run, I don't see how Kamala Harris could just be handed the mantle. If he does not run, are we looking at something like 25, 28 Democrats running like they did in 2020? And who would you see emerging from that pack? Is it Gavin Newsom, who seems to be the favorite right now, despite a horrific record in California?
Well, first of all, whether it's 2 or 25 Democrats running at any time, it's like shopping in a Soviet Safeway. There really are no choices. They are all for abortion in the 9th month. They all want to grab your guns. They're all for raising taxes, more regulations, hurting small businesses, energy dependence, Putin in Ukraine, a nuclear-capable Iran salivating our best friend in the region, Israel. It goes on and on, Joe. I believe Joe Biden will be the nominee unless people are able to do what they haven't been able to do yet. which is discipline him and improve his ability to not just communicate, but have good policies. And to your point, this is a fascinating thing. Think about a president whose approval ratings, especially on the issues of crime and inflation that are most important to Americans, that are so in the gutter, not being able to turn over the mantle to the first woman of color vice president. That's how bad she is. Neither one of them speaks very well. They don't inform and inspire us. But I think that the chances are they'll be the nominee.
All right, we will leave it there. Kellyanne, great comments from you. Love talking with you. Thanks so much.